Welcome to In the Loop on County Cable Montgomery. I'm Sonia Healy with the Montgomery County Council, and we're here today with our special guest, Cherri Branson, who's the Director of the Office of Procurement. Welcome, Cherri, and thank you for taking time out to be with us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So we want to begin by talking about your professional background. Can you tell us a little bit about what motivated you to devote most of your professional career to public service?
Well, I was sort of raised in public service. My grandfather was a town councilman in a small town in West Virginia, Shepherdstown. My mother was a school teacher before she retired. So, public service has sort of been a family business.
Okay, great. You and I got the opportunity to know one another back in 2014 when the council appointed you to fulfill the rest of the term for the District 5 council member. Can you talk a little bit about your experience on the Montgomery County Council and tell us a little bit about what you learned during that experience and if it's helped you at all in your current role as the Director of the Office of Procurement?
Well, first of all, you were a great Chief of Staff.
Thank you.
And I would have been lost without you.
Well, we were glad you kept us all on board. Sure, so.
But what I learned during that time, I was always involved in Montgomery County. I was always, involved in various political and nonprofit groups, and my life was really on Capitol Hill in a lot of ways, and so being on the county council allowed me to really relocate my whole life back into the county, so I lived here, I worked here, I, played here. Everything was the county, and it really introduced me to people who I had never met before, parts of the county I had never seen before. I had never been to Potomac before I got on the council. I had never been to Poolsville before I got on the council. I mean, so the knowledge of the groups and the organizations, the places in the county, I think has a lot to do with understanding this job, because this job really is about the direct delivery of services to those people in those places. Contracting is not just about who gets the contract, it's also what they do afterward. And my office enforces the county wage laws, in addition. So we look at the so-called living wage, the prevailing wage that's paid on construction contracts. Those enforcement of those laws and making sure that people are getting paid appropriately when they are working on county contracts has a lot to do with where people are every day in their lives. So having that kind of connection that I was able to develop with a lot of the communities when I was on the council really gives me the full 360 understanding of what's important to people, where they are, and how they live. You think you know those things, but when you really start to talk to people on a daily basis, it makes a huge difference.
Okay, and for individuals that are watching at home that may not know about the mission of the Office of Procurement, can you describe that a little bit at home for the viewers and tell them, what you do operationally each day?
Okay, well, the Office of Procurement is the county's buying agent, essentially. We do not purchase for the schools, which surprises a lot of people. Mm-hmm. We do not purchase for the college or for park and planning. But for everything else you think of as Montgomery County government, we do the purchasing for. And I think this, in FY15, that number was about $1 billion. Wow. So there's a lot of money that flows out of the county coffers, into contracts. So the mission of the office essentially is to make sure that county purchasing is efficient, effective, delivers what it's supposed to. But we also have a number of programs and policies that we have to make sure are complied with. For instance, the living wage, mm-hmm. The prevailing wage, but also the minority, female, and disabled program for subcontracting and contracting. the local small business program to assure that local businesses actually have a legitimate chance in getting some county contracts. We've done about 20%, a little more, 22% over the last several years in local small business purchases. For minority businesses, we haven't done as well, you know. And, you know, maybe about 18%, you know, but if you average it out. So, you know, we hope to do better. But those policies, those that recognize that government should indeed get the best price, but government also has to make sure that it's setting a standard that is fair and is fair for the inclusion of all its residents. And those programs and the wage laws I enforce are just as much an important part of that as anything else we do.
Okay, that's really important information. Can you talk to us a little bit about if I were a small business owner here in Montgomery County looking to get a foothold and get a contract here in the county? What are the 3 most important pieces of advice you could give a person who's trying to do that?
Register, register, register. Okay.
Great.
The first thing that any small business owner should do, just as a practical matter, is register. We have a central vendor registration system. I think it is mcippc.net. But if you can't find it, you can always go to our website and you can find it. Registering on that system is sort of your first entree to the county. From that registration, you will get, depending on what code you pick of the kind of business you do, you will receive notices about when solicitations are open. You know, that kind of notification about when we're buying stuff is a huge part of how you get in the game. The other thing you should definitely do is register for our newsletter. We have a weekly newsletter. And I guess the third thing you should do is to take advantage of our one-on-one consulting. We do provide consulting services for small businesses. It is not, you know, high-tech technical assistance, but we are more than happy to give you the kind of information you need to know about who to ask, what to ask, when to ask, because this is really, you know, I understand how hard it can be to want to break in. Within the next, I guess by the end of this calendar year, hopefully before then, we will have a brochure and some detailed information on our website that really explains how one becomes a contractor with the county, to sort of give people an overview of the different terminology and the time schedules they can expect with county procurement. So we are trying to make the effort to make county purchasing actually open and available to everyone who wants to apply.
Okay, that's great. That's very valuable. While you were serving on the county council, you had the opportunity to work with Councilmember Nancy Navarro, Councilmember Craig Rice, and Councilmember Hans Reamer on creating 2 task forces to look at procurement issues. What do you feel were the most important things that have come out of that task force, and what are some of the things that you're working on to deal with some of those issues that came out?
Well, what those task force found, those task force were brought into being because of the disparity study. And the county had done the disparity study, and the disparity study found that, yes, there are massive disparities in opportunity in doing business in this county. The task forces, there were 2 of them, were really designed to ask the more detailed question of, okay, given this reality, what do we do about it? And so each task force had sort of a different mission. The mission of the Minority and Small Business Task Force had to do with, how do we actually increase opportunities for minority businesses and for small businesses that are located in the county. What we've done, the sort of overarching message from that task force was outreach, outreach, outreach. Nobody knows what's going on. People don't understand how you get contracts. There's inadequate data to really explain where the money's going. And so all of those things we have tried to address head on. The other task force had to do with streamlining the procurement process. And that was a response to the belief that it takes too long, it's too difficult. When I understand that, and I heard it, and so one of the first things it did was the current form that is used for an RFP solicitation that people see. That form was, when I got there, about 44 pages long. We've cut it down to like 22. So, and it wasn't just because we changed the font size, there was a lot of duplicative information in that form, so we changed it. The other thing we've done is that we have tried to, I think, explain things better. A lot of times people assumed that the process was complicated. Well, our explanations were unnecessarily complicated. The process is really kind of simple. Okay. And so, we've tried to address some of that. We've had a number of trainings with contract administrators out in the various departments to help them understand how they can simplify. A lot of this is attitudinal, right? And so I've tried to help create a culture in the office that explains, that expresses more of a collaborative, consultative part of procurement. And so I think that is helpful. But whatever we do, it is going to take, you can't turn a ship in 10 seconds, right. And so it's going to take a while, but I think I'm approaching the first anniversary of my time there. That'll be like mid-June. And so I think that by mid-June, I hope that we see some improvements that people can really feel good about.
Okay, and as we wrap up here, why don't you tell us what you think your definition of success will be for your office as you approach this 1-year anniversary mark as being in charge?
I think the best definition of success I can find is that the perception starts to change. That people start to understand that this office and county procurement as a whole is not a sort of Mount Everest that nobody can successfully climb, that it is achievable, and that there have been many folks who have done very well using county procurement, getting county contracts as a part of their business model, and that those opportunities are open for business. We are open for business. Nothing is foreclosed. And if people get that, then it will have been a good year.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's an excellent note to conclude on. So I want to thank our special guest, Cherri Branson, for being with us today. Now you're in the loop with County Cable Montgomery.